Happy Hump Day boxing fans! Xicana Boxing back with the weekly Hump Day recap that we talked about last week. So shout out to me for keeping this 2 weeks in a row and not giving up already. But like I mentioned last week, I will be doing a weekly video recapping the weekend's action, looking forward to the next weekend's action, and of course discussing various topics that may have come up during the week. Right, so let's get started. Obviously, I know there was another card, whether it was on Top Rank. Yeah, it was on Top Rank, ESPN Plus, and it was what's his name, Michael Conlan versus Marriaga, right? Which I didn't watch it. I didn't really watch it. I was out doing shit with my friends, but I saw that Conlan won, which good for him, right? Because he got knocked out in a devastating fashion in his last fight, got thrown out the ring and everything. I'm glad he's okay because I was scary as hell, but I just never really liked Michael Conlan, as a fighter. I feel like they're forcing him. They keep moving him up and down in weight because, whoever's champion there, especially WBO champ, because, Top Rank has that whole WBO by the neck. I feel like they're, just strategically trying to force him so bad to become a champ, and it just hasn't worked out. And Marriaga is okay, Marriaga is, cool, whatever, but he's lost to Lomachenko, he's lost to Oscar Valdez, Marriaga is not the guy to be oh, good job, Conlan. Oh, good job, you're doing great. Of course, great for him for a comeback victory, but, I'm not really interested in my Conlan. I never been, big on the Conlan Revolution or what the fuck they try to call it. Good for him, right? I didn't watch it. Let's move on to the DAZN card, which I did watch for the most part. And let's get started with, obviously, the main event, Ortiz versus McKinson. Now, Ortiz versus McKinson was a fight a lot of people were kind of annoyed with because they're oh, who's this UK guy? Or, I know Virgil was supposed to fight him back in March and he got injured, so now, he's fighting him now. Well, he fought him now, right? Because why not? That's the fight that he had already scheduled, and McKinson won his very boring fight back in March, right, with the late replacement opponent. Boring ass fight. But he won, so why shouldn't Virgil, fight him when he was already scheduled to? Nonetheless, I feel like Ortiz made a good choice with McKinson in the way that McKinson's a southpaw, and if Ortiz plans to getting in the ring with Errol Spence and Crawford, or either or, after they have their own fight, I feel like it helps him kind of be in the ring with a southpaw and see how he can make adjustments without fearing that this guy, was, a guy with power in there would kind of make it more difficult, right? So McKinson's the best opponent in that way, that Virgil can try to see what works for him and make adjustments without too much fear of this guy's gonna knock me out, because McKinson doesn't really have knockout power like that, right? But I do have to agree with Bud's assessment on Ortiz at the fight itself, where they took the camera to Crawford, who was there because he was in Hooker's corner in the fight before that, right? And I agree, because I do feel like Virgil was trying too hard to get McKinson out of there instead of looking for adjustments. I feel like he could have made adjustments faster. I feel like he was too focused on landing that one punch, right? And it kept missing. Virgil was staggering McKinson, but he was staggering him because Ortiz hits hard. Ortiz is a hard-hitting motherfucker. So, he has a lot of power, and of course he's going to stagger his opponents. But I feel like that one punch that he wanted to land, or, putting so much power behind every punch, it wasn't landing like it should have. It wasn't, landing as crisp as it should have. He wasn't as accurate as other fights. And, of course, we can blame this on the inactivity and his, recovering from his injury, which is valid, right? That makes sense. But I still feel like McKinson was kind of that type of opponent that towards the middle of the rounds was already fighting scared, and Ortiz, he kept cornering him against the ropes, but he wasn't unleashing. He was kind of just stalking him and trying to set up that punch, but it just didn't land as it should have. And I just want to see improvement from Ortiz. I feel like this, we didn't notice that much improvement because people notice that Virgil still gets hit, which I feel like Virgil gets hit because he doesn't respect his opponent's power. I feel like once he starts respecting his opponent's power, he gets an opponent that is also hard-hitting like him. He's gonna maybe respect their power and not fight as, aggressively coming forward without much defense. But he fought Eggs like that, Kabalaskas, right? Mean Machine, and it's just I can see why people criticize Virgil's defense or lack of. Like I can see that because they say, hey, if he fights someone that's a harder hitter, how is he going to cope with that? With that pressure, how is he gonna do? Um, but again, I just feel like Virgil just doesn't. That's just his style. That's just how he is. But I do want to notice some improvements. I really do as well. I think Virgil did great against McKinson. My only thing is that, right? I feel like after the sixth round, he got his rounds in, and I would have wished Virgil to just go in there and finish it off, right? But he didn't make those adjustments, and his dad told him. You can hear his dad yelling at him in between rounds. Lo estás siguiendo, cabrón, or something like along those lines. Like, why are you chasing him? Like you shouldn't be just corner him and like cut off the ring and adjust, right? But I think Virgil's doing great still. I think you know, given that his inactivity and in there with the southpaw, maybe that kind of psyched them into what he should be doing instead of what listening to his corner what should be done. But I think he still, once he made the adjustments, he got McKinson out of there, right? So it's just maybe making the adjustments faster and not focusing too much on hurting or knocking out his opponent. But he won every round. Ortiz won every fucking round. So I really, what is there to criticize, right? Like he won every round and he knocked out his opponent. So he won, right? And I know that there's, that conversation with Ortiz and Boots, and I would love to make a video about that on its own. But I think Ortiz has been improving, and I just want to see more improvements. I want him to keep improving like he's been improving 2 fights, but I think people still see the same flaws, right? They still see the lack of defense, and I don't think it's lack of defense. I don't think that Virgil just doesn't have defense or doesn't, think about defense. I think he's just that guy that, like, if he's not scared of your power, he's just gonna fight like that, right? Like, that's what I would like to think. But I do want to at least see him like kind of move his head a little bit more, move his waist a little bit more, get out of the way with his footwork a little bit more. So hopefully we can see that next, because I do still think that Virgil is going to be a force to be reckoned with at 147. And post-fight, Chris Mannix asked him again, right, like about Crawford or Spence. And I like Virgil's response. He's been spicy, like I told you guys in the last video. And same thing with Chris Mannix. He's like, Mannix, like, don't act fucking dumb. He didn't say that, but that's basically, like what he was implying. Like, I had already told you before that I do want to fight them, but they got their own shit going on, which, we've been hearing for fucking months now that it's close to completion, right? Like, I don't want to hear news about close to completion. I want the announcement of Crawford versus Spence, right? So they have their own shit going on, and Virgil's aware of that. So what could be next for Virgil? I know Stationes, is that Stationes? Is next for the mandatory wise, right? But we know Cobbs beat Hooker. That we're going to talk about that right now. So maybe it could be Cobbs, right? Feed Cobbs to Virgil. Maybe it's Alexis Rocha, right? Like, whoever, like, I feel like from Golden Boy, he has Cobbs and Rocha that Virgil can have as food, right? In the meanwhile. Or he can go to Stadiones, but that's going to be harder because of the whole, Golden Boy and PVC shit, but also it's mandatory, so they have to do it, right? So, but then again, governing bodies are not the best at like keeping shit like you have to do it, right? They're not the best with that either. So we'll see what's next for Ortiz. You let me know in the comments what you thought of Ortiz's performance and who do you want next for him. Do you want him to go the mandatory route with Stationes, or do you want him to fight Cobbs or Rocha? Let me know in the comments. And let's move on to Cobbs versus Hooker. And let me tell you, I'll be completely transparent. When this fight got it, I knew Ortiz was fighting McKinson. I was like, oh, cool, right? But because I wasn't going to the fight, I wasn't covering it, I didn't really pay attention to the undercard. So literally on Saturday, I'm here on my house, turning on the TV on the zone. And when I saw the lineup and I saw Cobbs versus Hooker, I'm like, Cobbs versus Hooker? Like, why didn't I know about this? Like, this is a weird fight, but very intriguing because, like, they're both kind of like at a crossroads, right? Cobbs is coming off his knockout loss to Rocha in Mars, and Hooker already has two losses, right? And he's just, in that, like, should he be at 147? Should he go back down to 140? Is he, like, damaged goods now? Like, what's going on, right? So it was a great comeback fight for Cobbs because it's like, okay, well, this guy already has 2 losses, but he's a former champ, so, I should do well, but also it could be challenging. And, like, tell me why Hooker reminded me of that one viral video that went from ESPN Top Rank card where like the guy's just like stiff and like he don't know how to box, and people are criticizing him because it's like, who is this guy? Who approved this guy? That's how Hooker was fighting, all fucking stiff, and like his legs were stiff. He had like, he just looked like he wasn't himself. Like, if that makes any sense. Like, for, I don't know, like Cobbs is not the greatest, guy. Like, he's a very one-dimensional come forward fighter. So like I expected more, a much more competitive fight by Hooker, and even in the middle rounds when Cobbs was like visibly tired, right? Like Cobbs had punched himself out, he was kind of tired, and Hooker didn't take advantage of that. Even though Crawford was in his corner, like telling him like, oh, do this, do that, like he was just taking punishment for no reason. Like I feel like they should have stopped that fight because Hooker was just not himself. And if this is how his performances are going to be moving forward, I really don't see the point of Hooker even being a contender, even being a gatekeeper. I don't want to see him be a gatekeeper if any little punch puts you down, especially by Cobbs. Cobbs is not like this knockout puncher. Like, he has decent knockouts, but he's not like this powerful knockout puncher guy. So for Hooker to be going down that many times is like, goddamn, like, what is wrong with you? And I think I saw on Twitter that he was going through some stuff, like, personally, but I don't know about all that. If you have more information on that, let me know in the comments. But still, I just feel like Hooker had his days in the sun, and that he should hang them up if this is how he's going to be fighting. Congrats on Cobbs, but like I mentioned, like, I feel like any guy with a pulse of 147 that can have decent boxing IQ can beat Cobbs. I think Cobbs is food for Ortiz, and I think that would probably be the next move. Or he can, I don't know, whatever, he can do next, but let me know what you want to see from Cobbs next, I guess. And moving on to Marlene Esparza. I just put Marlene Esparza's name because I do not remember her opponent's name. And she did well, right? She did what she had to do, defend her titles, right? She defended her titles. She didn't look bad, right? She looked good like she does. She's a champ. She did well. And of course, I put this on there because there's still that ongoing talk about a possible rematch with Ceniza Estrada. And then Ceniza Estrada, I'll put the tweet right here. She said some funny ass shit on Twitter, something like, I would have knocked, the opponent out, which I agree with, right? But it's just her talking shit about Esparza. They've had the rivalry for a long years now, because I remember when they used to fight at the Velasco, Marlene Esparza and Ceniza Estrada were always talking shit to one another. Always. Like, that was the Velasco days of Golden Boy, when they would always be having these small cards, and Marlene and Ceniza were already having beef, like, back then, like, maybe like 5-6 years ago, right? So, maybe like 5 years. But they've had a rivalry for a while, right? So, I just feel like the rematch is not going to happen, or it will be more difficult to make this time, because as we know, Ceniza Estrada's now with Top Rank. She's no longer with Golden Boy Promotions like Marlene is, so it might be more difficult for this fight to be made because of the difference in networks and promotional companies, right? And because Ceniza has done so much since beating Marlene in the undercard of Canelo. Was it an undercard of Canelo Kovalev or Canelo Triple G? I don't remember. Point is, Ceniza took that victory and it catapulted her like levels above Marlene, right? She's gotten much more explosive in the ring. She's gotten more knockouts. She's become a champion at new weight classes. Like, she's done a lot of stuff after defeating Marlene, which of course Marlene also became champ once again. She's champ now, but Marlene is not as explosive in the ring as Estrada is, so that makes her not have as many fans as Estrada has. And she's not charismatic outside the ring. She kind of has like this resting bitch face, so she's not as charismatic. Oh my god. So she's not as charismatic as Ceniza, right? Ceniza's this charismatic character. She's feisty. She's explosive inside and outside the ring. And Marlene Esparza is just like, she's a good boxer, and obviously she's a former Olympian. She's a champ, right? 2-time champ. So like, good for her, right? But like, she just doesn't have the same. She doesn't draw in the same attention like Estrada does. And Estrada does not need Marlene Esparza. Estrada can fight all the other champs in her division, and two divisions, right? She can go up and down in, and she has all these champions that she can contend against. I remember that one girl. She's from think Costa Rica, I forgot her name, but she does for Marv Nation. She wanted a fight with Sinisa, and I feel like that would be a good fight for Sinisa, right? But Marlene is like, Marlene needs Sinisa to, like, I feel like, stay as relevant, right? But we'll see what happens with that. You let me know what you think in the comments. And back to Bully, lastly for this card. I know the card was longer than that, but these are the cards that I paid attention to. I mean, the fight that I paid attention to. Okay, the other ones I was just kind of like in and out watching. These are the ones that I watched fully. So back to Bully came back after his defeat. Wait, had he had another fight before, after getting knocked out by Rosado? I don't remember. Let me know in the comments. But good for Beck the Bully. He, oh my god, those body shots he was landing on his opponent were brutal. They hurt me. I was like, holy shit, that guy's gonna be pissing blood for weeks. Like, it was a good fight, but good showing by Beck the Bully, right? He did great. I think he still has, you know, he makes a great undercard fight because he is entertaining. Either he's gonna knock somebody out, or like we know he might be the one getting knocked out. But good for Beck the Bully. I did see some nice adjustments there. His defense is a little better, right? But yeah, I don't know. What is that? What weight class is that? 168? 160, 168? 168, right? Point is, you know, good for Beck the Bully. I do want to see him in fights at 168 with the likes of the other B-level, C-level guys. He has a lot of promise, just making fun fights, and that's what boxing needs. Whether he's going to be a champion, I don't know. I doubt it. But, you know, it's not all about champs and championship fights. It's about doing great fights, and Beck the Bully is that. Beck the Bully is entertainment for, you know, for undercards. That's nothing gets you more pumped for a main event than a brutal knockout. Whether it be Beck getting knocked out like he did against Rosado, or him doing the knocking out. It's great entertainment. So good for Beck the Bully. And yeah, that concludes the whole DAZN boxing card. That was all the boxing stuff I didn't watch. But so let's move on to this weekend's action, plus just this week's news that kind of just caught my attention. Okay, so Teofimo's making a comeback after losing to Kambosos, right? After he had beat Lomachenko, he became undisputed to most, right? He lost to Kambosos and kind of went in this spiral emotionally, and kind of saying that he was set up, saying that DAZN played him, you know, like, so he was going through some stuff, and now he's making a comeback. I know he's on Top Rank on ESPN, obviously, and he's fighting Pedro Campas, I think his name is. But it's a good test for Teofimo to come back. I am expecting him to look good, but not perfect, right? Because of the inactivity, because I know that there may be still some just ego shit going on there, and feeling like he has to prove himself, so that pressure may impact him negatively. So I'm not expecting him to be perfect, but I'm expecting him to come back and remind people why he's, you know, forced to be reckoned with now at 140, right? Because I do feel like I would rather see him fight the guys at 135, but I also believe that the guys at 135 are still young, right? Like him, and will eventually also be making the move to 140, and we can maybe see those fights there, right? With Devin Haney, of course, with Gervonta, or any of the other guys that are 135, right? So I'm really looking forward to Teofimo, seeing how he looks. I know for the fight against Kambosos, even though he claimed that he was, you know, robbed, or he was, you know, kind of set up, he had a lot of family issues going on, things with his wife, things with his mom. I know he cried talking about his dad, right, in that Lomachenko fight preview thing. So it's like, I hope that he gets better. I hope he's better, you know, in a better mentality, in a better place. I do hope also that he stops listening to his dad so much. I know that his dad is obviously in his corner and is a great important part of his boxing life, but his dad does say a lot of crazy shit, and I feel like his dad has a lot to do with how Teofimo's influenced on how he acts to certain things. So I do hope that Teofimo comes back, because I do really think that he is a great fighter, and he could give us great fights now at 140, and I would love to see him in the mix, right? I would love to see him come back. He already made history, right, by defeating Lomachenko. He did great, and I know why people have negative feelings about Teofimo Lopez, given how he was acting after. But as a fighter, I feel like he can still, you know, do well, and he's young, so I do expect him to. And I have the best feelings. I don't know much about the undercard, honestly. I haven't even looked at it. But I'm excited to see this card. Just let me know what you think. Do you think Teofimo's gonna come back and kick ass again and remind people why the fuck he beat Lomachenko? Or do you think he's gonna kind of still struggle a little bit in his comeback and, you know, like, he will need another fight to kind of, for us to really see what he's gonna do at 140, you know? Let me know what you think in the comments. Second one is Ben versus Eubank, which, like, honestly, I've seen rumors about this for weeks now, and it was finally made official, I believe yesterday, that Conor Benn versus Eubank, Chris Eubank, was going to be a fight. And I know it's big on the UK. Like, I see all UK people on Twitter be like, woo, like, oh my god, like, this is gonna be a good one, this is gonna be a barn burner, oh my god. But, like, as someone who, like, while I do understand the rivalry because, you know, Ben Sr. and Eubank Sr., like, I get it, right? I don't see how this is helping Conor Benn. Like, Eubank is washed. He's done his stuff. He's been champ, lost the championship. He's been there, right? Eubank's he's on his way out. So, whatever. He's just going to take whatever fight's going to make him the most money or is going to bring him the most, you know, fans to the seats. But Conor Benn, like, why is this a thing? Like, I don't get it. You know, Conor Benn has been kind of named as the big thing coming up at 147 in the UK, right? Kind of what Boots and Virgil Ortiz are to the US, you know, to US fans. Conor Benn is that to the UK, right? The promising prospect, the promising contender, right? So, like, Conor Benn, you would think he would take, like, better names, kind of like what Virgil and Boots have been doing, right? They're fighting, like, better opposition every time. And Conor Benn's, like, just seems like, is he just, like, fighting washed fighters? And I know that's developmental, right? Like, I know that all prospects are coming up not fighting the best guys, right? They're fighting guys that they know they can beat or whatever. But I just don't see how this is helping Conor Benn to develop as a better fighter, given that he's going to contend at 147. Like, what is that going to prove when he knocks out Eubank? That, oh, he was able to use his power, and it's so powerful that it carries to, you know, it's going to be at a weight cut at 157. What is it? Catch weight. It's going to be at a catch weight at 157. But, like, okay. Like, oh, he's so powerful that he was able to knock out a former, you know, a guy who fought at 160 pounds, 68 pounds or whatever. It's like, but he's washed. So, what? You know, like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I feel like people are saying, you know, good for him that he finally got the big fight that he deserves, Conor Benn, right? But it's like, he seems to have a solid fan base, and UK fans are, like, some of the most dedicated fans that I know, besides Mexicans and Filipino fans, right? But, like, I feel like he has that notoriety to him that people are going to see him no matter what. So I feel like I would have rather seen him against literally anyone else at 147 instead of, like, someone who's already on their way out. And, like, I don't know what this is going to do for his development, you know? Also, I saw someone told me on Twitter, I believe, that it was that Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank was the same thing to the UK that it is to us Mexicans, that to us Mexicans was Canelo versus Chavez Jr. And at first I'm like, okay, that makes sense, you know, like, it's the rivalry, it's like the whole country pride thing. And at first I'm like, okay, but later I thought about it and I'm like, no, it's not. Let me tell you why it's not. Because Canelo is this big deal, not only in Mexico, but in boxing's entirety. One can also, you know, argue that he is the face of boxing currently, right? Canelo's recognized worldwide, right? Canelo is that face of boxing for the most part. You could say it's AJ, you can say it's whatever, right? Now, but currently, now that Pacquiao and Mayweather are retired, Canelo is the face of boxing, right? So he's been for a while. Even if he wasn't, like, even back then when he hadn't become, like, undisputed or whatever, he was still a big deal already. Chavez Jr., on the other hand, he just because of his name, right? He's obviously the son of a legend, not just Mexican legend, but boxing's all-time greats in Chavez Sr., right? So his son is obviously going to get that same, not the same respect, but the same recognition in the way that we want to see how that son is developing. And even though kind of similar to Eubank, Chavez Jr. was already kind of, like, showing signs of being washed when Canelo fought him. It was mostly for, like, to prove a point because the whole Canelo versus Chavez thing is more of a like argument in Mexico of, who deserves better. Is it nepotism, which is, Chavez Jr. or Canelo, whose first fight he won like 800 pesos, right? And like he, that's why he fought, to go ahead and, help his family or whatever. But like it's more of like, who's gonna be the Mexican, star, the one to represent Mexico in boxing. Is it gonna be the son of the legend, or is it gonna be this random, redheaded Mexican with freckles, and who's it gonna be type thing, right? And that this drew in millions. I don't know about millions, but a lot, thousands of casual fans, right? Like Canelo has such a huge casual fan base, and so does Chavez Jr. because just his name, right? So Canelo versus Chavez Jr. was a worldwide entertainment boxing event. Who the fuck knows about Ben and Eubank unless they're boxing fans outside of the UK? You know what I mean? So no, it is not to the UK what Chavez Jr. and Canelo was to Mexico, because they're not on the same level. Canelo and Chavez Jr. had notoriety. They had casual fan base. Everybody in Mexico knew them. Worldwide people knew them. Boxing fans in general knew them. As with Ben and Eubank, it's just boxing fans. Boxing fans, that's it. Maybe more people in the UK because, the UK is really big on boxing. But it's not the same. And that is my... Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But let me know what you think in the comments. If you're in the UK and you want to explain to me why this is so great and such a barn burner. But I'm not saying I'm not going to watch the fight or I'm not going to enjoy it. Or it won't be an entertaining fight. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense for Ben and his development and what they want to do with him, given that he plans to contend, at least that's what I thought, at 147, right? So like I don't get it. But let me know in the comments what you think. Now, King Ray versus Teofimo Lopez. We just talked about Teofimo making a comeback, but King Ray, who just defeated Javier Fortuna, much easier than I think a lot of us anticipated. Now Oscar De La Hoya is saying that they can't really come to a conclusion or come to terms with Gervonta Davis, right, to be able to fight him. Like Ryan claimed he wanted him next. Gervonta has said that he wants Ryan too. But as boxing fans, we knew this shit wasn't gonna happen. Like, let's be real. We knew that no matter how much either guy said, "Oh, I want him," that shit was not gonna happen. Not next, at least. And I'm not surprised. But Oscar De La Hoya is now telling ESPN that because he's not able to come to terms and negotiate with LRB or, whoever is the one that's representing Tank, which I think it is LRB, he's saying that now he was going after Teofimo Lopez. That Teofimo Lopez is the next target, given that they can't get Gervonta Davis. And Teofimo Lopez would be the next best thing, especially because, he beat Lomachenko and he was one of the 4 greats of, like, what was it, of the 135 at the time. Like, it was Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, and who else? Was it Lomachenko? Yeah, something like that. But, like, I just don't like being lied to, and I feel like this is also a lie. Like, I don't see King Ryan fighting Teofimo Lopez. One, because of different networks, and Top Rank and Golden Boy don't really like to collaborate. And if they do, it's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be easier than Gervonta versus King Ryan, right? I don't think it's going to be that much easier than what he was trying to negotiate with Tank Davis, right? Now, another reason is because we know Teofimo's now contending at 140. Does Ryan want to go to 140 now? Is that what's gonna happen? Like, is that what's happening? What about capturing a title 135? Is that not a thing anymore? What is happening, right? So like, I don't think that's gonna happen, and also because I just don't see it. I know that Ryan wanted to fight Jojo Diaz, who is now apparently returning against William Cepeda, which I will talk about that fight when we get to fight week, I guess. But I know that besides Jojo, I feel like there's other options that Golden Boy would like to consider for Ryan before they try to consider any of the top guys his age, right, or similar to his age. I just don't see it happening, and I hope I'm proving wrong. I hope to fucking see Teofimo call out Ryan, like, hey, Oscar and Ryan, you guys said you wanted me next, let's do it, blah, blah, blah. And not that that means anything, because we see motherfuckers call out each other at post-fight and then nothing happened after, right? But it would just make it more like, oh, okay, like, there's a possibility. But as for now, I don't think Ryan's going to pursue Teofimo. I don't think Golden Boy's going to pursue Teofimo for Ryan. Unless Teofimo just looks so vulnerable in his comeback, right? And even then, even though they might have interest on him, it doesn't mean that they're going to get the fight done. Because again, given that the networks are different, given that the weight classes are different, given that Teofimo might not want to fight Ryan Garcia right now, you know, like, I don't know. It just, you let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe Golden Boy and Oscar that they do want to target Teofimo next? Do you think that it's kind of just, you know, they're just kind of throwing names at us like always, right? I feel like Ryan is big on, we always get these names thrown at us, and then at the end it's just some other person that we never heard of before. Not that we never heard of before, because we knew who Fortuna was, we knew Luke Campbell, but it's always guys that were like, oh, where did that come from? Because, like, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments. Lastly, to close this video off, let's talk about Fury. Tyson Fury is always on some bullshit, and don't get me wrong, I did thoroughly enjoy his 3 fights against Deontay Wilder, who didn't, right? That was a huge accomplishment for him, to go ahead and defeat Wilder, take his belt, and then defend them the way that he did against Wilder. Great trilogy. But he's just always been on some bullshit, and, like, he's not my favorite boxer, like, by any means. Like, no me cae bien el güey, like, I don't. But he's constantly on some bullshit, right? Like, besides him, I feel like he retires, and for kind of like Conor McGregor, right? Like, they retire, and then they, for attention, they want to claim they're coming back, and then they do come back, and like, then retire again. Like, it's just on some bullshit, like. And most recently, he did have a post where he's claiming he's coming back and he got a new trainer, which to Sugar Hill responded like, good luck with that type of thing, which I think is buffoonery, because, like, why are you changing your trainer once again? And I know people are going to be like, his fans are going to be like, well, let him choose whoever the fuck he wants to train with, or who cares? Some fighters retire and then get the itch to come back. I get all that. I do, but Tyson Fury just always looks to be on some attention-seeking shit, or just stirring shit around. Like, I think he's so fucking corny. And I saw a tweet yesterday that said something like, if you're a Fury fan still on 2022, like, that's fucking corny, grow up. And that's how I feel. Like, I don't give a fuck about Tyson Fury coming out of retirement unless he's coming out to face the winner of Joshua versus Usyk, or just to come and fight, I don't know, some top names. I don't want him to come out and fight Dillian White again or some bullshit, you know what I mean? So just let me know what you think about it. That wasn't really that big of boxing news. That was just me trying to get that off my chest, like, me cae gordo el güey, pa ese pendejo. But let me know what you think in the comments about this video. Any news that you may feel like I missed, I want to discuss with me, go ahead and follow me on social media so you can just have more conversations with me about boxing. If you feel like I missed something, I'm always open to boxing talk. Obviously, at me first before you jump in my DMs, because a lot of times the DMs go into, like, the hidden messages, and I never check those, so just at me first. And of course, subscribe, tell your friends. I do want to start going live again. I'm aiming for a Sunday going live, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evenings, so that we can go ahead and discuss what happened on, you know, like, the previous day for the fights. But let me know what days works best for you guys, or what days you would like. Should I do it Mondays like I used to? Should I do it Tuesdays? Because, you know, football's coming, and I know people do football on Mondays and Sundays. Should I do Tuesdays? Should I, you know, let me know what you think. Go back on lives. And I just want to give a shout out to Chris. He does this amazing overlay. He does all my overlays, and I really like this one because it gives me the chance to do, like, these little sections so I don't forget what I'm trying to talk about. And I'm gonna plug him in here so you guys can go ahead and hit him up for any overlays you may need. He does graphics, he does posters, he does Twitter headers, and he's just amazing. So you guys should definitely hit him up for any needs, graphics you may need. And yeah, just let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe, comment, like, send it to your friends, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.